Hey everyone, this is Cypher here. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be going over all of the changes that we got in the 9.2.0 update in Dead by Daylight, plus 9.2.1 and 9.2.2, which just recently dropped, which I'll actually cover at the beginning of this video, as opposed to at the end, which I would normally do in my previous update coverage videos. There is a lot of crazy changes we've had in here, especially to Michael Myers. He got a massive rework, which I've actually yet to look at. I've not read any of the changes for that yet, and I've not even played him, so I have no idea what that's going to be like. Maybe I'll make a separate video covering the Michael Myers update, because I think that could be kind of interesting, I guess. But there was a major anti-tunneling update as well that they did in the PTB, but I think they've gone back on that now, and I have no idea what that entails at all. I know a lot of people were like all for it, and then there was other people who were calling them just bad at the game and saying that they just need to get good. I sort of saw both sides of the argument, but let me know what you guys think of that, because I know some people were very disappointed and there was other people who were like happy that they didn't go through with it. So the reason I'll be doing 9.2.1 and 9.2.2's changes at the start is because, for one, I would normally cover the PTB to live changes first, but I didn't actually play the PTB on the channel, so it's kind of redundant reading those out since I never actually had an experience in the PTB. And a lot of the changes here that are listed from the PTB to live have been changed anyway in 9.2.1 and 9.2.2, so I don't really see a point in reading those since they no longer apply. But I will read out, starting off, the changes to the Krasue, because she's been getting a few nerfs already. She's had 2 nerf patches already, and everyone just keeps moaning about how OP she is, and I get it. Like, I've played against her enough now since making my chapter video and playing as her, and there are areas where I feel like they can improve. But the thing that I don't like about behavior when they start nerfing a killer that everyone in the community, primarily on Twitter or X, are moaning about, it ends up being a case of that the killer just becomes so badly nerfed to the point where they just aren't fun anymore, or they just aren't playable. Yeah, I really hope they don't continue down this path, because I really like her as a killer. And honestly, even though everyone keeps saying how OP she is, a lot of my games have been very mixed. Like, I've had some games where I come out with a 4K, I've had some where I come out with only 3. Sometimes I come out with like 1 or 2 kills. I feel like it really varies. I think some people like to really act like she's so much worse than she actually is. I think with a really strong perk build, and also played by the right person, she can be very deadly. But then on the other hand, I feel like for the average player, that isn't the reality. Like, I feel like a lot of people who play her only get half the team or less. Like, that's what I had an issue with when I started playing her. And even on like some of my best days, I don't know, my experience has been a lot different compared to everyone else's, where it seems that everyone thinks she's literally the devil incarnate. Like, they think she's an absolute pure hell to play against. Anyways, waffle out of the way. We're just going to read out the Krasue changes. So in 9.2.1, starting off, they increased the initial number of glowing funguses to 5, which used to be 4, and they decreased the maximum number to 6, which was 8. So you spawn now with more glowing funguses on the map than before, but the maximum number it can go up to has been decreased, so there isn't too many. They also decreased the time during which intestinal whip ignores obstructions to 0.35 seconds, which was 0.6. So a little over half of what it used to be. To be honest, I'm not really too sure how these things about like ignoring obstructions and these, like, you know, these little kind of nuances to the power, I'm not really sure too much about how they work, and I don't pay an awful amount of attention to them. But I do know that when I was playing the Krasue before this update dropped, there were a lot of times where her whip would literally swerve around obstacles where it probably shouldn't have, and there was also times where it would kind of clip through obstacles. Like, I could actually hit people, say, if they'd just gone around the edge of like a rock or some other kind of obstacle. So it was a little bit questionable at times. They've increased the head form pallet vault time to 2 seconds, which was 1.7, and the head form window vault time to 1.8 seconds, which is 1.7. So there was a lot of people criticizing the Krasue for her head vault time because, like, it was very fast, I guess. Honestly, that's warranted. I can understand that. And then finally, they increased the head form pallet stun time to 2.5 seconds from 2. So they just did some slight changes there, but then 9.2.2 came out and they did a couple more. So here, the leeched is now completely removed from survivors when they are hooked, so they aren't just gonna have the leech meter on them pretty much at all times until they use one of the mushrooms. That I am fine with. I think that's fair enough. I mean, the fact is, you can leech survivors up so fast. If you hit them with the regurgitate ability, that shit auto locks onto survivors. Like, it's literally aimbot. But with how quick that is to apply to someone, and then you can just almost immediately switch into head form and then hit them twice with the intestines, all things considered, it doesn't take very long to down the survivors. They also increased the corporeal weave time to head form to 1.2 seconds, which was 1. Essentially, just switching to the head form will only take an extra 0.2 seconds there, which isn't anything too wild. I mean, these are very small numbers we're working with here, so I don't like to get too caught up on them, but they also increased the intestinal whip wind up to 0.3 seconds, which was 0.2. They decreased the intestinal whip collisions length to 0.32 seconds, which was 0.35. Okay, they've increased the regurgitate thrown cooldown duration to 1.3 seconds, which was 1, and they increased the regurgitate cancelled cooldown duration to 1.3, which was 0.1. Yeah, 0.1 is wild. Like, that's literally not even a cooldown, so if you did just cancel using that, it was like immediate, and then you could just wind it back up again. And the only other change we got in 9.2.2 was a survivor perk update to off the record, so they've re-added the endurance status effect, and they decreased the perk duration to 30, 35, or 40 seconds now, which was 60, 70, or 80 seconds. And then there's a dev note at the bottom which says the intention with this change is for the perk to help with tunneling that occurs within a reasonable time frame of being unhooked, while reducing the possibility of using it aggressively more than 40 seconds after being saved from the hook. This perk used to be very strong. Like, I'm sorry, if you're getting the highest value out of that, so if you've got the purple rarity, you'd be getting value for up to a minute and 20 seconds after being unhooked, which is a very long time. That would obviously prevent your aura from being revealed to the killer at any point in that 1 minute and 20 seconds. It would also suppress your grunts of pain when injured, and the endurance too. Apparently the endurance was removed in 9.2.0, so when I do get to reading the survivor perk changes later in the video for 9.2.0, just keep that in mind because that has been added back. But that's all of the 9.2.1 and 9.2.2 changes. Let's get to the actual 9.2.0 update now, starting off with quality of life improvements. The match details screen now displays the items and add-ons equipped, in brackets for survivors, and the killer power icon and add-ons equipped for the killers. This is visible only for the player that has them equipped. As with perks, players can hover over these icons to display their tooltips. So if you're in game and you've forgotten what build you've put on, I guess, like obviously they have this already for the perks, but if you forgot like what your add-ons do and you want to check up on what they do again, or you want to check what your items specifications are, and I guess the same for the killer, if you want to check on what the power does, then you can do that within the menu in the match details screen now in a match, which I think is great. Honestly, this is something I've kind of wanted for a while. And then also for the recovery while in the dying state, it's now automatic and no longer requires a button to be held. When full self recovery is available, tap the interact button to pick yourself up, which I think is good. I'm happy with that. Honestly, having to constantly stop whilst you're moving around and then hold the button and then move again, say if you're trying to crawl to look for the hatch or something, or you're trying to crawl closer to a teammate, having to constantly stop to try and up your recovery meter was a bit inconvenient. And if this tap interaction button for full self recoveries is the case, then I'm glad that that's the thing, because if I'm using Unbreakable but I don't want to use it quite yet, it would be very annoying if it got to the end of my recovery meter automatically and then just used the perk without me wanting to use it. So as long as that doesn't break and bug out or anything, then that's good that they've got a button there so that you can choose if you want to use that self recovery perk if you have it. Being able to just crawl around and also have your recovery meter go up at the same time, I think is awesome. Then they've added a new scenario to the abandon option. So after recovering or being healed from the dying state twice, the option to abandon becomes available the next time you are downed. I guess the assumption is that in the majority of cases, if you've been put into the dying state, you aren't going to reach the end of your recovery meter because naturally the killer will pick you up immediately to take you to a hook. It could just happen to slug you and then get distracted, say if like your teammates are hanging around and they want to sort of ward them off if they're all hanging around for like a save or sabotage or something. But if this happens twice in a row, then it's obviously very likely that they're doing this intentionally. They're just trying to slug you. Yeah, that's all we have there. Then for palette density quality of life update, they've updated various realms to adjust the quantity and distribution of pallets, reducing the presence of dead zones. That's great. And the realms that were affected by this update are the Macmillan Estate, Autohaven Wreckers, Coldwind Farm, Protoss Pren Asylum, Haddonfield, Backwater Swamp, Red Forest, Yamaoka Estate, Ormond, and Decimated Borgo. So pretty much the majority of the maps there. And they've also updated all realms to draw from the same pool of available maze tile layouts. So there's going to be consistent layouts across these different maps. And that's great because there are certain areas of like the map where there's literally zero fucking pallets. And if there is one, it's like a really ass one. Then for menu updates, they've updated the tomes and archives menus to offer an improved lore experience. So tomes tomes are now displayed with the most recent tome at the top of the list, and they've added visual effects to distinguish the most recent tome, and the new lore content is delivered regularly without players needing to complete archive quests. Okay, moving on now to content updates. So the first thing we have is the Michael Myers rework. Oh my god. Again, haven't played this at all, haven't seen it. I think I maybe played against one Myers. I've heard a lot of mixed opinions. Some people really don't like this and they want them to, you know, revert it, and there's other people who are happy with it, so we'll find out how I feel about that in due time. But they basically gave a summary at the top, which isn't very common that they do this, but I guess it's a very big update, so they've given you sort of a too long didn't read. The shape now has 3 modes: Stalker, Pursuer, and Evil Incarnate. Okay. The shape can swap between Stalker and Pursuer modes without needing to stalk. Okay, so I guess stalking mode is just specifically when you want to get your stalk meter up, which I assume would be attached to some kind of power up, which maybe is the Evil Incarnate ability, and then Pursuer mode would just be your active, just walking around and chasing people type of thing. The shape must stalk survivors to unlock Evil Incarnate mode. Okay, so I was correct there. And while Evil Incarnate mode is active, the shape has a new special attack, Slaughtering Strike, and they've updated most of the add-ons as well. The Stalker mode, in brackets previously evil within 1, the shape is undetectable and moves at 4.2 meters per second, which again I believe is what evil within 1 did. You hold the power button to stalk nearby survivors, yeah, and when the stalk meter is full, automatically enter Pursuer mode, in which the Stalker mode becomes unavailable, and it says note, no longer decreases the lunge range. So that's one thing that evil within 1 used to do. It used to make your lunge range pretty shit, so you'd have to actually tear up. So at least that's no longer the case, because that was kind of AIDS, I'm not gonna lie. And then we have Pursuer mode, which was previously evil within 2, so the shape has a 24 meter terror radius and moves at 4.6 meters per second, which I believe is the average. The lunge range, braking speed, and vault speed and stun recovery speed are increased by 20% in this mode. You then have Evil Incarnate mode, which was previously evil within 3, so when you would just, you know, have the knife and insta-down people and shit. When the stalk meter is full, tap the ability button to activate Evil Incarnate mode. Evil Incarnate mode lasts 40 seconds. The shape has a 40 meter terror radius and moves at 4.6 meters per second, so that's the same speed as Pursuer mode, but the terror radius is increased to the size of like Ken Carnegie or Wesker's terror radius, which is kind of wild. Vault speed is increased by 20%. It unlocked a new special attack, Slaughtering Strike, and this unlocks the ability to kill survivors who have reached the final hook stage. This cannot be used on survivors with endurance. So if they activate a perk, like Off the Record, if you have Off the Record off of Hook or Dead Hard, then you can't use the kill ability on them. So I guess that's like an interesting workaround besides hopping in lockers. So it's kind of like, it sounds a lot like using the tombstone, but not as liberally. Like you can't just go over to anybody and just like stab them regardless of their hook stage. That just sort of sounds like a base kit version of that, except it applies specifically to people on the second hook stage. And it says, note, survivors are no longer exposed, and note, no longer increases lunge range. So yeah, before Evil Within 3 would make your lunge range slightly increase, which obviously then they used to be exposed, so they'd just go down at any point in time. And then the special attack, Slaughtering Strike. So for that, you hold the power button to charge a lunge, then press the attack button to begin the attack. Holding the power button longer extends the lunge's duration up to a maximum of 1.5 seconds. Okay, and then Slaughtering Strike has a base speed of 6.9 meters per second. Holy crap. Hits with Slaughtering Strike instantly down healthy survivor. Okay, I thought they'd completely removed the entire sort of insta-down thing, but it's just saying instead of people being exposed, you know, with a status effect, and then that being the way that you down them in tier 3, now they aren't exposed, but if you do hit them with the Slaughtering Strike, they will get instantly down, so it's basically just the same thing. Slaughtering Strike can break pallets and breakable walls. This is something I did actually see in the game I played against the Myers at one time, and I thought that was kind of crazy. I was like, oh damn, you can like break pallets, and it's pretty quick as well. And Slaughtering Strike has a 6-second cooldown. That it? 6 seconds? I mean, granted, it only lasts, what, 40 seconds overall, so you don't want it to have a really long cooldown. Otherwise, if it was like 10 seconds, for example, you might only get 4 uses out of the Slaughtering Strike in that Evil Incarnate mode, so you might be able to get at least, I think, 5 or 6 like use out of that on average. And then for stalking, the stalk meter now takes 5 points to fill. This was 3 for tier 1 and 6 for tier 2 before, kind of like a sort of middle ground there between the two tiers that used to exist before. And they've increased the movement speed multiplier when stalking a survivor to 60%, which is 20%. You can actually move pretty quickly there while stalking. Before it would slow you down quite a lot. The stalk rate is decreased by 25% whilst moving, so you're kind of incentivized to stand still, I guess, which honestly, that's a lot more lore accurate, because I don't think Myers ever stalked people whilst moving in the films. He would stand from behind a tree or the edge of a house or something, and from behind bushes and fences. When the stalk meter is not full, after 20 seconds of not stalking, the stalk progress decays to 50%, so you'll have to then charge up the other 50% again, kind of incentivizing you there as well to continue stalking so you don't lose all your progress. They've decreased the maximum stalking range to 32 meters, which was 40 meters before, I guess, in tier 1, 2, and 3. It says, note, survivors no longer have a limited amount of stalk points, and note, the stalk rate is no longer affected by distance. So obviously before, if you were stalking, if the survivor, I guess, was further away, you wouldn't be able to stalk them at all. Now, obviously, it does say here that the maximum stalking range is 32, so they have actually put a cap on it, but I guess the actual stalk rate would be slowed if they were further away before, and if they were closer to you, it would go up at the, normal rate. So now it'll be the same regardless, it'll go up at the same speed, and the fact that they no longer have a limited amount of stalk points is kind of cool, so they're not going to hit red and then you won't be able to, like, stalk them anymore, because that whole thing was so fucking dumb. That's, like, one of the things I hated most about the old Myers. I'm happy with that, at least. Yeah, this does definitely sound a lot more nuanced than before. Can't really speak too much on this right now. I'm not going to call this a bad update or a good one, per se. I'm kind of in the middle on this whole change. I mean, to be honest, most of the time, I had a bit of difficulty with securing a full team as Myers, so I'd have to, run certain perks to kind of bring him up and make him a bit better. Maybe this balances him out more. I'm not too sure at this point in time, guys, but do let me know down in the comments what you all think of this change. If you're a fan of it, if you don't like it, I'd be interested to know. Moving on to his add-ons now. So for the tacky earrings, it increases the movement speed while stalking by 20%, which was 10% before. The memorial flower, they've reworked this add-on apparently, so it increases the movement speed in stalker mode to 4.4 meters per second now. Obviously, this would be 4.2 before, so that just makes it slightly better. Honestly, I feel like a lot of people might just put that on just so that they have that advantage in stalker mode, so they're not as slow. Before, with the old Myers, this would increase your stalk rate by 11%. Then for Boyfriend's Memo, this has also been reworked. This now increases the maximum stalk range by 8 meters. So you can, get up to 40 meters again? That's cool. Okay, so you can basically get the old stalking range. So this add-on before with old Myers used to increase the reach of lunge attacks while in Evil Within 1 by 50%. Then for the blonde hair add-on, they've reworked this one as well. It seems there's quite a few of these actually throughout that have been reworked. Holy crap. So scratch marks and pools of blood last 100% longer while in stalker mode. Okay, damn. That could actually be very useful, to be honest. This before with the old version of Myers used to increase the duration of Evil Within 3 by 10 seconds, and it would increase the threshold to reach Evil Within 3 the first time to 150%. Then for the reflective fragment, that's also been reworked, so the slaughtering strike only deals a single health state of damage, and hitting a survivor with slaughtering strike adds 20 seconds to Evil Incarnate's duration, and they changed the rarity to very rare for this add-on. I actually think that's really cool. I mean, obviously, if you're willing to sacrifice the ability to insta-down healthy survivors for extra Evil Incarnate, that's pretty nice, I guess, because it lasts 40 seconds, which is long enough. But if every time you hit somebody with this, does that just mean it'll continue to increase by 20 seconds? Because that's wild. That could go on for ages. If you just keep up the streak of hitting survivors with the slaughtering strike and dealing just a single health state of damage, couldn't you just have Evil Incarnate for like most of the game or like a very long period of time? I'm curious to see how that one works out, but that's a rather interesting add-on actually, I think, and that also does switch up the gameplay quite a bit, so that could be pretty fun. With the old version of Myers, this used to be an uncommon add-on, and it would basically reveal the auras of survivors to you for 2 seconds after stalking them for at least 1 second while within Evil Within 2. Then for the jewelry add-on, this has also been reworked. This increases the stalk rate when stalking stationary survivors by 10%. Okay, so just survivors who are stood still, but the odds of a survivor being stood still aren't very likely. But I guess if they're like standing just behind a window doing an unhook, pallet camping, or if they're AFK in certain circumstances, I guess, especially when there's some survivors who are just stood up on a higher point than you, like on a ledge or something, and they're just stood staring at you, because there's a lot of survivors who do that for some reason against Myers. They just stand and stare at you and like nod or teabag and stuff. I guess whilst they're just stood there, you can get a higher stalk rate, so that's kind of nice. This before used to increase your movement speed by 20% whilst stalking with the old version of Myers. Then for the hairbrush, this has also been reworked. When Evil Incarnate is activated, the next pallet you break is destroyed 50% faster. Holy crap. Already it's pretty fast, but I mean, if you put that on too, it'll be be even quicker. So maybe that's why the Myers I went up against was so fast at breaking the pallets. Like, it felt like he was just like immediately breaks the pallet and that was it. And I was thinking, shit, that's really quick. I hope that's not like the base amount, because like that was kind of crazy. But with the old version of Myers, this used to increase the duration of evil within 3 by 20 seconds, and it would increase the threshold to reach evil within 3 for the first time to 150%. Then for the glass fragment, this has also been reworked. This increases the movement speed of Slaughtering Strike by 5%. Bro, the Slaughtering Strike is already really fast. And then with this add-on, it also decreases the charge speed of Slaughtering Strike by 10%. So you're getting slightly quicker movement speed in Slaughtering Strike, but unfortunately, it will take slightly longer to charge up, which fair enough. Then for the Dead Rabbit add-on, this decreases the terror radius in Pursuer mode by 25% and increases the terror radius in Evil Incarnate by 25%. So this would do the same thing before, but obviously applying to Evil Within 2 and Evil Within 3, respectively. So just the same function, just applied to the new names they've given to his different modes. Then for the Mirror Shard, this has also been reworked. It increases the base duration of Slaughtering Strike by 0.25 seconds. So with this add-on, you'll be able to get 1.75 seconds of duration with Slaughtering Strike, and then it decreases the charge speed of Slaughtering Strike by 25%. A bit like with the Glass Fragment, this will obviously take a hit to the time that it takes to charge this up, but the payoff is great because you get an even longer lunge, so there you go. This before, with the old version of Myers, used to reveal the survivor's auras to you for 5 seconds after stalking them for at least 1 second while within Evil Within 2. And for the Jewelry Box, this was also reworked. It now decreases the stalk range by 16 meters, cutting your stalking range in half. So you're only getting 16 meters of maximum range that you can stalk, but it increases the stalk rate by 30%. With the old version of Myers, this used to increase your movement speed by 30% while stalking. Then for the J. Myers Memorial add-on, this has also been reworked. So now, while Evil Incarnate is active, your pickup and hook speeds are increased by 40%. So I think this could be pretty good because Evil Incarnate only lasts 40 seconds. It's not going to last the whole game. But especially with Pursuer mode, you get a faster lunge range, break speed, and vault speed, and stun recovery speed. But now with this add-on, you can also get faster hook and pickup speeds too. I feel like running this add-on with the perks Agitation and Fire Up could be really good. With the previous version of Myers, this used to increase your stalk rate by 25%. This was definitely one of my favorite add-ons for him before. And even now, it seems to be a good add-on still, so that's nice to see. Then for the Hairbow, it increases the duration of Evil Incarnate by 20 seconds, which was 30 before. I believe when it's saying it was 30 before, it's referring to Evil Within 3, and it decreases your stalk rate by 20%. So you'll get the Evil Incarnate for longer, which obviously is really great for your longer lunges and being able to break pallets and all that good shit, but it just means that your stalk rate will take longer, which is fair enough. I mean, you could probably just counter it with another add-on like Jewelry Box if you're willing to take a hit to your stalk range, or you could use the Judith's Journal, which will increase it by 40%, but only for the Obsession. Those are the only two ways you could really get back that stalk rate. Then for the Vanity Mirror, this has been reworked, so when Evil Incarnate ends, you see the auras of all survivors for 4 seconds. With the old version of Myers, this would reveal all survivors' auras within 60 meters of your location while stalking, and Evil Within would not be able to progress beyond tier 2, and it would also grant you 150% bonus blood points in the Deviousness category for hit score events on top of the regular blood points granted in the Brutality category. Then for Tombstone Piece, this has been reworked. So of course we all know the Tombstone Piece used to be like a soft version of Judith's Tombstone, where in tier 3 you could kill survivors by a hand and then it would like knock your tier 3 down back to tier 2 and you'd have to charge it back up again. But now when Evil Incarnate is activated, you become undetectable for 20 seconds. Yeah, it's going to be so weird looking at Tombstone Piece and also Judith's Tombstone, which we're going to get to as well because that's also been reworked. It's going to be so weird looking at those now and thinking that they no longer allow you to kill the survivors by hand, because that's now more of a built-in thing once the survivors are on second hook stage with Evil Incarnate. But yeah, that's nice though, being able to get undetectable for 20 seconds. I mean, that's half of the Evil Incarnate duration, so if you're going to be able to lunge faster, you're going to be able to break pallets in this mode. Your vault speed is also increased by 20%. You have a bigger terror radius. Having all of that and then for half of it being fucking undetectable, like that's wild, man. Goddamn, that could be pretty spooky. Then for Lock of Hair, this has also been reworked. While Evil Incarnate is active, hold the ability button to end it prematurely and retain 50% of the remaining duration as stalk progress. So I guess normally if you ended your Evil Incarnate, you would lose your stalk progress. It would just go back down to 0 again, since you chose not to use the power-up that you spent your time charging up, right, to to unlock. I guess if you just want to like cut it short, you can do so with this add-on and still keep half of your stalking progress, so that's kind of nice. With the old version of Myers, this would increase the duration of evil within 3 by 40 seconds and would increase the threshold to reach evil within 3 for the first time to 200%. Then for the scratched mirror, which we mentioned before, so this will still do its ability of what it did with the old Myers, where it would lock you to tier 1, where you could only stalk and you would get auras of survivors within 32 meters of your location while stalking, plus the 200% extra blood points in the deviousness category, but with the new stalker mode. So you'll still be able to use this playstyle, which is I think is great, because there's a lot of people who really liked scratched mirror Myers. I don't think I ever used it once. In all the years that Myers has been out, I don't think I ever used scratched mirror just because it didn't really appeal to me. Like, I liked having the tier 2 and tier 3 values that came with powering up his ability. It wasn't my thing, but I know a lot of people really liked it, just being able to know where survivors are within quite a huge range and being able to jump scare them and stuff. So you can still do that now with this version of Myers, which is great. So the only thing they've done here is they've changed the rarity to visceral, which before it was very rare, so it's just one rarity tier higher. Then for Judith's Tombstone, which we just mentioned before, that has been reworked too, of course. So hooking a survivor during Evil Incarnate refreshes its duration and limits the duration of Evil Incarnate to 40 seconds. Okay, so if you do use this add-on, you won't be able to put on other add-ons that up the duration of Evil Incarnate. So it will, I guess, counteract any other add-ons you put on with this. So you will strictly have a 40-second duration, but the duration will reset upon hooking somebody. So you're going to be able to just constantly get 40 seconds as long as you keep hooking a survivor. That's wild. I mean, that makes sense to be the rarity that it is, because Judith Tombstone was a pink offering, which I guess now is the new visceral. So that sounds like a very strong add-on and would definitely be very crippling if you're very good with the new Myers. If you just keep the pressure on, you keep hooking survivors, you're going to constantly get 40 seconds of all the benefits you get with Evil Incarnate. Obviously, Judith Myers Tombstone before, as we all know, unless you're new around these parts, it obviously granted the ability to kill healthy and injured survivors by your own hand while in Evil Within 3. It would increase the threshold to reach Evil Within 3 for the first time to 300%, and it would reduce your movement speed by -9% while in Evil Within 3. So yeah, it was really good then, and even now, this still sounds like a really good add-on, and not being some lazy excuse for an add-on like some killers have, where the whole incentive is that it makes survivors become exposed or something. I just find those to be like some of the most uninteresting add-ons, even though they're cool. You know, I get exposed downs. What is there to complain about there, right? But I just feel like they're kind of lazy cop-outs for actually interesting add-on ideas, you know? And then finally for his add-ons, oh my god, we've been here for so long. For the Fragrant Tuft of Hair, this has also been reworked. So survivors become exposed while Evil Incarnate is active. Your lunge range is increased by 50% while in Evil Incarnate mode. You can no longer use Slaughtering Strike though, so yeah, you won't be able to get that really cool lunge and down people, but you'll basically get the old Myers if you want to play that way. I think that's nice. I mean, I don't know if it will hit the same way, but if you preferred the old Myers and the way that the tier 3 used to work, then if you just run this add-on, you can do that. And they've changed the rarity to uncommon, so this will be a lot easier to unlock, which I think is also commendable of them, because I think if this add-on was a pink add-on, if it was something really hard to acquire like that, I think that would just make it so insufferable, and it would be so hard for old Myers fans to actually access this add-on. And then there's a dev note at the bottom which says this add-on makes the shape's power work similarly to how it used to, yep, and we've made it more common so those who prefer the original power can keep a steady supply. Okay, so those are all the changes to Myers. That was a lot to go through there. I probably took a lot longer than I should have. Again, I can't really speak on this because I haven't really tested it out yet, but it sounds pretty fun. Like I say, I might make a video on that, so stay tuned. It seems pretty good, but my opinions are subject to change. Once again, let me know in the comments what you guys think of these changes. Moving on now to just general killer updates. So firstly, for the unknown, they've increased the weakened duration increase upon injuring a healthy survivor with UVX projectile to 8 seconds from 6 seconds. They reduced the movement speed recovery time after teleporting to 1.3 seconds, which was 1.4 seconds before. And they've increased the unknown's vertical camera axis to allow higher aim elevation with the UVX projectile. Okay, cool. So So there's just a few base kit changes they've done. And then for the add-ons, for the Rabbit's Foot, it afflicts the hemorrhage status effect to survivors injured by UVX for 45 seconds now, which was 30 seconds before. Then for the blurry photo, after teleporting, you regain full movement speed 7% faster, which was 15% before. So they've nerfed it, but then again, they did slightly, just very slightly increase by like 0.1 seconds the recovery time after teleporting in the base kit. So that's consistent with that. Then for the last known recording, it reduces the hallucination's aura range visible to survivors by 35%, which was 25%. And for the slashed backpack, destroying a hallucination with UVX decreases the time until the next hallucination spawns by 65%, which was 75%. The extra time it should allow for more precise placement. For the vanishing box, it increases the hallucination spawn time by 120%, which was 80% before. Oh my god, they've nerfed that by a solid 40% there. That's crazy. This is the add-on where survivors completing a generator become weakened. And for the hypnotist's watch, it inflicts the exhausted status effect for 15 seconds now, which was 10 seconds before. So we've got a 5-second buff there. And the hypnotist's watch is the add-on where survivors hit by an airborne UVX projectile suffer from exhaustion for 10 seconds and be good if you're very close to them. If they're injured especially and they're going to try and do a dead hard, for example, to try and like take a hit, that could be good. But if they're at like a medium range to you, then they could outrun that 10 seconds pretty easily, I feel like. So them adding an extra 5 seconds to that is pretty good, especially because I feel like hitting people with an airborne UVX is harder than just bouncing it off the environment. So there we go. That's slightly better now. And then with the serum vial, it inflicts the exhausted status effect as well for 15 seconds, just like the other add-on, which was also 10 seconds before. And the serum vial is the add-on where survivors entering the aura range of a hallucination suffer from the exhaustion effect. So they've just made that consistent between both of those add-ons. Then for the Dark Lord or the Dracula, for the vampire form, they've reduced the cooldown of Hellfire to 9.5 seconds, which was 10. The Hellfire is pretty damn strong, so I didn't really have a problem with it being at 10 seconds, especially because if you're at least half decent at it, you're probably going to hit the survivors as long as it doesn't like go at a funky angle and then just get absorbed by the obstacle, which happens sometimes when I'm playing as him. But yeah, the majority of the times, if you're just decent at lining up your shots the same way you would with Pyramid Head, you're probably going to hit it, but whatever. They've reduced that by 0.5 seconds. They've also increased the number of Hellfire pillars to 8, which was 7. Oh my god. Bro, they're making him better than he was. I don't know if they maybe went too hard on him with one of the other updates they did in the past, but they've made that better now. They've reduced the Hellfire charge movement speed to 3.68 meters per second, which was 3.8. So yeah, your movement speed whilst charging up the Hellfire will be slower, but the cooldown is slightly quicker and you're getting an extra pillar, so you can't really complain there. They've increased the movement speed recovery time after activating Hellfire to 2.35 seconds, which was 2.25 seconds before. So that also will take slightly longer. Then for the wolf form, they've increased the pounce attack charge time to 0.9 seconds, which was 0.85 seconds. So not really a huge difference there. 0.05. I'm not even going to worry about that. But yeah, that's slightly increased. They've also increased the scent orb spawn time to 6 seconds, which was 5. I think the scent orb time used to be 4 seconds, and they upped it to 5. Now they've upped it by another second, so they'll be more spaced out now. And then for the bat form, they've increased the bat form flying movement friction to reduce sliding motion to 2.2, which was 1.6. I have no idea what that's alluding to, so I'm not even going to try and explain that. They've made the base kit slightly better there in some areas, slightly nerfed in other areas, but nothing too crazy. For the Dark Lord's add-ons, the Ruby Circlet, it reduces the cooldown of Hellfire by 5% now, which was 10%, again, in line with the base kit, so that's understandable. For the Clock Tower Gear, it reduces the cooldown of Shapeshift by 5%, which was 10%. The Traveler's Hat, it increases the Shapeshift speed by 5%, which was 10% before. The Moonstone Necklace, it reduces the size of the terror radius in vampire and wolf forms by 8 meters, which was 4 meters before. That's like the first buff we've had so far. The other ones have just been nerfs. Then for the Blood-Filled Goblet, it increases the duration of scent orbs by 60%, which was 50% before. So you'll get them for slightly longer now, which I think is fair considering that they are more spaced out with the base kit change. And for White Wolf Medallion, it increases the Killer Instinct duration by 1 second while in wolf form after survivors complete rushed actions, which was 0.8 seconds before. Not much of a difference there, literally just 0.2, so whatever. Then for Killer Doll, it increases the cooldown reduction of pounce attacks from scent orbs by 30%, which was 50%, okay. For the Force of Echo, it increases the spawn rate of scent orbs by 10%, which was 17%. Again, just in line with the base kit, because the spawn time was obviously increased by 1 second. Then for the Medusa's Head, repair, the survivors within 8 meters, which was 12 meters before, of your teleport destination suffer from an 8% hindered status effect for 4 seconds, which was 3 seconds. So you're getting the hinder duration on the survivors for a second longer, but just at a reduced range. They just have to be a lot closer to the vault that you're on. So it might not reach quite as many people now, but at least it will last a little bit longer. And for the Warg's Fang, it reveals the auras of all survivors whose scent orbs you have collected for 5 seconds, which was 4 seconds before, especially since they're a lot more spaced out now, you're given a little bit longer of aura value to make up for that. And with the Lapis Lazuli add-on, after teleporting to a window, it is blocked for 8 seconds, which was 15 seconds. Okay, I actually liked that add-on quite a bit. Now they've just made it kind of stinky. They've halved the duration there, unfortunately. And then for the Ring of Vlad, Hellfire Pillar reduction downside was removed, which before was reduced by 1 pillar. The Iridescent Ring of Vlad is the add-on which causes the Hellfire spell to home in on nearby survivors. So yeah, that's going to be a lot better now, because before you would have only 7 pillars, and this add-on would bring your pillars down to 6. But the fact that the pillars literally home in on the survivors, they like move towards them. But now, since the number of pillars has been increased to 8, and there is no reduction with this, you're still going to have the 8 pillars on that ability, and you're still going to get the upside of the add-on as well, which is kind of crazy. So there you go. That add-on is a lot better than before. Moving on now to the Clown. They've increased the time it takes for afterpiece antidote clouds to activate to 1.6, which was 1 before. Now, obviously, in the previous update, which I didn't cover on the channel because I was too late and I just ended up dropping it, they did reduce this to 1, which I thought was great because it meant that it could activate a lot quicker and you wouldn't have to have that long wait walking up to the cloud before it would turn yellow and give you the haste. But obviously 1 second was pretty fast, so they've now added another 0.6 seconds onto it, especially when you've got the bottles to slow them down as well. I could see why that could have been a bit of a problem, but there you go, that's been nerfed slightly. They've also increased the duration of the hindered effect after leaving an afterpiece tonic cloud to 1.6 seconds, which was 1. So they did a slight nerf with the first part, but they buffed the other part, so, you know, that's nice. So on both of those things, the values have been switched to 1.6 from 1. Then for the Ghoul, when grabbing a survivor on the other side of a vault with Kagoon Leap, the survivor is released at the start of the vault instead of the end. And then finally for the Oni, they've increased the number of blood orbs that spawn when hooking a survivor to 5, which was 2. Oh my god, we're getting increased blood orbs? Hell yeah. 2 wasn't very much, and honestly, I didn't really have an issue with it because there's always loads of blood orbs around the map anyway. There's usually lots of leftover ones that you probably haven't picked up, so it's not really an issue, but the fact that they're giving you even more for the people on hook, that's helpful. There's all of the killer changes for survivor perk updates now. For Clairvoyance, starting out, they've increased the aura reading duration to 10, 11, or 12 seconds, which was 8, 9, or 10 seconds. This, of course, is the perk that allows you to see the auras of exit gate switches, generators, hooks, chests, and the hatch within a 64-meter range after you cleanse or bless a totem. Then for friendly competition, they've increased the bonus repair progress speed duration to 100, 110, or 120 seconds, which was 45, 60, or 75 seconds. Holy crap. So apparently this perk activates after you've completed a gen with at least one other survivor, and when it would activate, it would increase your repair speed and anyone else that completed the gen with you by 5% or that duration, which on its own is kind of shit unless you stack this with other gen repair perks. 5% of 90 is 4.5, so you're only saving close to 5 seconds if you do a gen on your own using this perk. A gen with 2 people apparently takes about 75 seconds, and then 60 seconds if there's 3 people. So assuming you're doing it with 2 people, let's say, and you reduce 5% of the time on the generator, that would be saving you 3.75 seconds. And if there's 3 of you doing the gen where it would take you 60 seconds, you'd be saving yourself 3 seconds. So it's not like you're saving a whole lot of time with this perk, but at least now with the perk lasting up to 2 minutes, you can get a bit of overlap onto a second gen rather than it being only available for 1 gen. For Hope, they've decreased the haste status effect gained when the exit gates are powered to 3, 4, or 5%, which was 5, 6, or 7%. Oh, apparently the base movement speed for survivors when running is 4.0. So when you were getting 7% before, you were only getting an increase of 0.28. So you were getting close to 4.3 meters per second of running speed in the end game. Now you're getting 4.2. So not a huge reduction, all things considered. It's a little bit stinky, but not really too big of a difference for me to get really bought up on personally. Was this change necessary? I don't really know. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. And for No Mither, they've increased the volume reduction for Grunts of Pain to 100% across all tiers, which was 25 75, 50, or 75%. Okay, so it's much better now, and it no longer has like a tiered value, so that's cool. And for off the record, of course, we mentioned this earlier, they removed the endurance status effect, but they added it back again in 9.2.2, so no need to fret, guys. The perk is good again. And they've also removed the stipulation that it disables once exit gates are powered. So I guess it continues to be available even after the last gen has been popped. That's great. They've also added a new effect, so while active, you do not leave scratch marks while sprinting. So that should hopefully help with the tunneling. The killer might have a harder time now finding you since your scratch marks aren't visible. Plus the fact that you have no grunts of pain either. So then for leader, they've increased the action speed bonus value to 20, 25, or 30%, which was 15, 20, or 25%. They also increased the action speed bonus range to 10 meters, which was 8. So there's a slightly higher chance for more survivors to benefit from increased cleansing, gate opening, healing, sabotaging, unhocking, and unlocking speeds. And they've updated the perk description to simplify the linger effect, so it's just a bit more understandable. Then for Lucky Star, they've decreased the cooldown to 35, 30, or 25 seconds, which was 40, 35, or 30 seconds. And this is the perk where hiding in a locker suppresses your grunts of pain. And then after exiting the locker, you benefit from the following effects, which are suppressing your grunts of pain and the creation of pools of blood. The auras of other survivors are revealed to you, and the aura of the closest generator is revealed to you in yellow. You'll be able to get it back even faster. That's great. Then for pharmacy, unlocking chests is 75, 100, or 125% faster, which was 70, 85, or 100% faster. So way quicker there. And the hearing distance for noises from unlocking chests is reduced by 12 meters, which was 16 meters before. It won't be at as big of a distance as before, which sucks, but you are opening them a lot faster now. So I guess that balances things out. And it guarantees an emergency medkit upon completing the interaction. Then for plot twist, they've added a new effect where it increases the recovery speed by 25% when used. Okay, so this is basically like the yellow rarity of Bill's Unbreakable perk, which is great, especially because when you use plot twist, obviously you're choosing to manually down yourself so that you can fully recover and then become healed so you can gain a health state back. And honestly, there's a lot of times where I've used plot twist or I've seen other people use plot twist and they'll go down somewhere on the edge of the map and it takes them a while to fully pick themselves up using that perk. Like sometimes I've literally walked around the map somewhere where I can kind of roughly predict where I last saw them, and I'll probably find them there just sat behind a bush like downed trying to use the perk. And it's pretty sad when they do that because it's like, oh damn, they really thought like if they went down somewhere sneakily they'd be able to get the value, and then I end up fucking getting a free hook. So honestly, the fact that they've added that there I think will be very helpful for helping people pick themselves up quicker with this perk so they're not downed somewhere for as long. Then for poised, which I don't think I've ever used this perk before, I forget what this perk even is, but they've increased the killer aura reveal duration when repairing a generator for the first time to 8 seconds, which was 6 seconds before, and they've increased the time where you leave no scratch marks after a generator is completed to 20, 25, or 30 seconds, which was 10, 12, or 14 seconds before. Not much to say there. Those are obviously good changes. For quick gambit, they've decreased the cooldown when losing a health state to 40 seconds, which was 60 seconds before. Most people never tend to use that in their builds. Like it's one of those perks that just gets completely forgotten about. So at least they're making that a little bit more appealing, which in all fairness, they did actually buff this a while ago where they made it that all survivors, whilst you're being chased, get an increased repair speed rather than it being like people nearby to you, because that obviously is like bringing the killer to a POI where the killer could easily just leave you and go for the people on the generator. But I think this actually helps make it even better so that people are more likely to use it. Then for tenacity, they've added a new effect which prevents your aura from being red while in the dying state. Okay, that's cool. And they've decreased the crawling speed bonus to 15, 20, or 25%, which was 30, 40, or 50%. You can't crawl as fast, but your aura's hidden. So I guess that's kind of nice. And then for Vigil, finally, for the survivor side, survivors can now only benefit from one Vigil perk's effect at a time, which previously stacked with other versions of itself. Vigil is the perk where it increases the recovery rate from the following status effects by 20, 25, or 30%, and that's the blindness, broken, exhausted, exposed, hemorrhage, hindered, mangled, and oblivious, which would extend to other survivors within 8 meters of your location and then would linger for 15 seconds. It just means now that that value won't be stacked, because that's understandable. I mean, obviously, if all your teammates ran Vigil, right, you'd all be getting your recovery rates increased by, let's say if you've got the purple rarity and it's 30% reduction, if you had all your teammates running it, it would be 120% quicker, which which would just be ridiculous. Moving on now to killer perk updates. Finally, for All Shaking Thunder, they've increased the lunge attack distance, increased duration to 15, 20, or 25 seconds, which is 8, 12, or 16 seconds. Bro, I never thought they would have done this. When I was making the Doomed Course chapter video at the time, I remember thinking that All Shaking Thunder was pretty strong because, like, it lasts quite a long time after you've dropped from a height, but that distance is now even better than before. Like, what the fuck? I'm actually enticed to run that perk now. I mean, I don't own the Houndmaster. I refuse to buy her because I just think she's such a shit character, and honestly, that should go without saying since literally nobody plays her. Her pick rate is in the ground, but she's got some decent perks. So if this comes to the Shrine of Secrets, you can best believe I'm gonna get it now because it was good before, but like this is even better. So then for a Nurse's Calling, they've increased the range to 28, 30, or 32 meters, which before was 20, 24, or 28 meters. So that's a massive range, to be honest, and it no longer affects survivors who are in the dying state. So, you know, you can still get it for healthy and injured survivors. This is the perk where the auras of survivors who are healing or being healed are revealed to you, which especially if you're running this perk on a character like Nurse or any other killer that has a distance advantage, like if they can teleport or they can fly and stuff, I feel like this is crazy. It was already a pretty big range. Now it's going to be the size of an average killer terror radius, and if you're constantly flying around the map, you're going to be able to see survivors so much easier now and keep the pressure on them even more than before with preventing them from doing heals. Then for Dark Arrogance, they've decreased the blind and pallet stun duration, increased to 15%, which was 25%. This is the perk that also permanently increases your vaulting speed by 15, 20, or 25%. So you'd be a lot better in loops. And that was like the one downside of this perk that I never liked running it for, is the fact that it made your blinds longer. The fact that that's been reduced makes me actually want to use it now, I'm not gonna lie. Then for Dead Man's Switch, they've decreased the generator blocking duration to 25, 30, or 35 seconds, which was 40, 45, or 50 seconds. Okay, it was upwards of like nearly a minute's worth of generator blocks after somebody had stopped repairing it. So I know, especially when playing on the survivor side, that was sometimes a little bit annoying. It wasn't a big deal, but obviously it's left you not being able to do that gen for quite a while. And for Deerstalker, they have actually reworked this, and it used to give the aura of survivors who are in the dying state. So now when a survivor sees your aura, you see their aura, and then for every 40, 35, or 30 seconds, it reveals your aura to the survivor with the lowest chase time for 3 seconds. So this was really good for helping you find survivors that you had like downed and left somewhere on the map, so they don't get like the hatch or something, or just so you know where they are, so you can get your hook or your mori instead of them bleeding out. And it would also be good if the survivor used something like Plot Twist, you could then see on the map where they are. So I liked it as it was, but now it's kind of like a win-win situation for both sides. Like they get to see where you are, you get to see where they are. That can be pretty helpful for you, so you know who to go for next if you've been chasing like a certain survivor a lot and you want to try and find someone else that you haven't been for yet. But it also does suck now because you're literally giving away where you are, which if that survivor is in a Swift, they can just tell all their teammates like, yo, I can see the killer, they're over here, and then the survivors can just like use that to their advantage. The only reason I can see why they changed this perk is because it's in line with the perk changes that they did with No Mither and Plot Twist. It's almost as if they just wanted to level out the playing field so that the killer doesn't have this advantage with this perk in being able to see where the survivors are, especially when it's already kind of a slow process trying to pick yourself up from the dying state. I feel like that's really the only reason for this, unless they were doing this to make it a more usable perk in more builds. Then for Hex Ruin, they've increased the generator regression to 100, 125, or 150%, which was 50, 75, or 100%. They've basically gone back on what they did in the past. This used to be 100, 150, or 200%. So it's not quite what it used to be, but the purple rarity you get now is basically what the green rarity used to be. So that's really good. Like, I mean, obviously that's going to make people use Ruin a lot more now, and I've definitely been noticing it already. Like, since the chapter came out, I think even in my video when I was playing as V, I think the killer had Ruin there as well. So it didn't really used to pop up a whole lot in people's builds after they nerfed it, but it's now just going to have a massive comeback, and can already see it. Like, people are going to start using this a lot more, because this used to be one of the top perks that killers used to use in the past. So this could be a bad thing or a good thing, depending on how you want to look at it. As a killer, I feel like it's nice that they've made the perk better, but as a survivor, that's going to make doing gens hell on earth all over again. It's just going to be so fucking annoying, but there you go. Then for Leverage, they've decreased the healing speed reduction value to 20, 25, or 30%, which was 30, 40, or 50% there. So they've reduced it by 10, 15, and 20%. And they've increased the healing speed reduction duration to 60 seconds, which was 30 seconds. So it's not going to reduce their healing as much as it did before, but it will last twice as long as it did before. I guess the 50% reduction before was kind of crazy. Like, that would severely slow down healing speeds, especially if you paired that with other perks that reduce survivors' healing. Like, that could be absolutely awful for them. So I can understand that change, and I guess the other half is just to make up for it. So there you go. For monitor and abuse, while in a chase, your terror radius is now increased by 5, 10, or 15%, which was 6, 7, or 8 meters before. Okay, so that's completely switched from a totally different metric there. Otherwise, your terror radius is now decreased by 15, 20, or 25%, which was 6, 7, or 8 meters before. So from looking it up, apparently this was done to make the perk more versatile for different killers with varying terror radius sizes. So that, say, if a killer had a smaller base terror radius of 24, like the Hag, this perk would dramatically reduce the terror radius to the point where she's near undetectable, whilst with a killer, say, like Karnaki or Wesker, with a bigger terror radius of 40 meters, it wouldn't have as much of a difference, if that makes sense. Rather than reducing or expanding it by, like, concrete meter levels, it now takes into consideration the size of their base terror radius before it increases or decreases the size, essentially. And for oppression, they've increased the random generator selection to 4, which was 3, and they've decreased the cooldown to 45, 40, or 35 seconds, which was 60, 50, or 40 seconds before. So this is the perk that would cause up to 3 additional generators at random to also start regressing when you perform a damage generator action, and it would also trigger a difficult skill check for all survivors currently repairing an affected generator. So now you're getting that perk back quicker than before, and you're also getting up to 4 gens rather than 3 affected by the regression, which I think is great. A positive in both aspects there. Maybe it's because this perk wasn't highly picked. I'm not really too sure. I mean, it doesn't seem like a bad perk. I don't know why it wouldn't be picked very much. But then for Septic Touch, they've increased the linger duration of the blindness and exhausted status effects to 20, 25, or 30 seconds, which was 6, 8, or 10 seconds. That shit would run out so fast, which is the perk where whenever a survivor would perform a healing action while they are inside your terror radius, they would suffer from blindness and exhausted. But now, once the healing action is interrupted by any means, whether that be that they stop healing or you come in and, like, hit one of the survivors and end the healing action, they're still going to be afflicted by these status effects for 30 seconds afterwards, which is wild. The other thing as well is that if the killer is moving around the map, you're going to end up in their terror radius quite a bit. That's just bound to happen, especially if it's a dredge using this perk or any other killer that can teleport or has, like, lots of map coverage. You're going to actively be in their terror radius. So how are you even going to outrun this? I don't even fucking know. God, this video, I've been recording for so long. How long have I been recording for? 3 hours! Oh my god, that is insane. You guys are probably sat there thinking, how the fuck have you been recording for 3 hours? I waffle a lot. I have to keep switching tabs to look at other shit, searching things up, checking what stuff does. This is going to take me ages to edit. But anyway, finally, for ultimate weapon, they've increased the range when opening a locker to 40 meters, which was 32, bro. That was already really good. Like, that was the size of an average terror radius before that you'd get the aura reveals. Now you're getting them up to 40 meters? Oh my god. I mean, I guess if you want this perk to be consistent with the highest terror radius with killers like Ken Karnaki and Wesker and what have you, I guess that's fair, you know, if they want to do that. So yeah, 8 meters further than before. That's even better. And then also they've reduced the cooldown to 55, 50, or 45 seconds, which was 80, 70, or 60 seconds before. God damn, I didn't even think they were gonna buff Ultimate Weapon again, because it's not even that long ago that they last did it. They really want people to use this, apparently. So there we go. We've actually had a lot of really interesting changes in there. Mainly the perk changes, and also what they did to Maya's are the ones that stand out to be the most. Some of them I'm not really sure how to feel about them, like they're kind of questionable or a bit meh. And then there's other ones I just have no idea what to think of them. Do let me know down in the comments though what you guys think of any of these changes. I'd be very curious to know. If you enjoyed this video or if you found it to be informative, please be sure to smash the like button down below to let me know. It really helps the video out in the algorithm. Also, hit the hype button if it's available on your device. That really helps smaller creators like me get pushed out there to more people. So if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos from me, don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications next to it so you never miss a single video of mine. And with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all very soon with a brand new video. Goodbye.